Hello artists, welcome to the second video in the series called 12 Steps to Exhibiting Your Work in Galleries as a Beginner Artist. My name is Antonio Alanis and I made this video to talk about all the things that comes with applying to galleries as someone who started applying to galleries as a beginner artist over 8 years ago in 2016. And a question I have for you, are you a beginner artist looking to exhibit in galleries, and are you overwhelmed with all the options and all the information that galleries require? In this video, I'm going to talk about the essentials of understanding art calls and also submitting to these art calls and galleries, and also think about what themes your work is exploring to increase the chances of being accepted into galleries. I'm super excited to start this video, and let's do it. Step number one to understand a gallery art call is to think about what is an art call. So essentially an art call is when a gallery does a call or a request for people to submit their work, and it can be many different ways in how they do this. We will be talking about two of the major ways that I have used art calls to apply for these opportunities and why art calls are important. Art calls are usually when galleries say, we want to exhibit artists. We want to exhibit individual artists. We want to exhibit collective artists. We want to exhibit anyone who wants to submit their work. So essentially an art call is that. Submitting your work to a gallery. And why is it important for beginner artists to think about exhibiting in galleries? As a beginner artist, if I were to tell this myself when I was starting out, I would tell myself that it is a beautiful opportunity to start learning about how the art world works and how to best market, how to network, how to do all the skills that wrap around being an artist. One of the biggest things that I am exploring in this series is advice that I wish I knew when I was starting out in this world of art. And I understand that I didn't have a lot of the information that I do have now, and this is a way for me to essentially share what I learned over the years, more than 8 years now exhibiting in galleries. And one of the things that I really find out about galleries and the art world from someone who has not studied art in school or doesn't have an art degree, and what I hear a lot from talking to artists and also listening to other artists talk, is that art schools do not touch these wraparound services or information or techniques and things that artists need to essentially continue their craft. Now, I don't want to generalize, but that is what seems to be what I'm hearing. And I want to be very mindful that I don't want to make a blanket statement at all, but I am hearing that art schools are not allowing artists to receive this information. And again, I won't touch on that because I don't have the experience or I don't have the authority to talk about it because I've not been in art school. But anyways, I think that marketing and networking and understanding what the art world needs is a crucial way for us to navigate around what the art world needs or asks us about. I can't tell you how many times I've met so many people that were interested in my work and how networking with them has opened up so many opportunities. Working with them, including doing commissions later, doing other things that eventually allow me to continue to work in this realm. So networking and marketing have been such an important part of my career, and I think it's important to learn how to talk about ourselves and be okay with that so that other people can find our work. Because what I've discovered that marketing is something that will allow us to continue doing this work. And sometimes it's hard for us to talk about our work without feeling like we're bragging or thinking that we're arrogant. So I think it's important to think about how galleries are an exposure to what the art world is about. And I think that the importance of this kind of work is that we have the opportunity to learn this in a way that is immersive, and we experience it ourselves. Again, continuing on with the introduction to an art call, there are two and three. I participated in two mostly, but I'll talk about the three most that I know about. The first one is having a theme exhibition. So this is when a gallery says, hey, we have a topic that we want to explore, and we're looking for artists who have work that aligns with this theme. This could be anything from a exploration that the gallery is doing, anything around the gallery's thoughts about how their programming is going, or anything around what the community may be needing. I can give you some examples. In the last video, talk about one of my first experiences in submitting my work on identity to an immigration theme, immigration justice gallery in North Carolina, and how my theme aligned with their theme. So that was something that they were looking to exhibit. Other galleries that I have submitted to, they have been on our heritage, right? Our Latinx heritage, anything related to heritage. I've also submitted to other galleries around food and how we tell our stories. Other galleries that I have submitted to and their themes have been around our culture, around rights, LGBTQ justice, anything like that. So I've been able to submit some of my paintings and illustrations to these calls. So again, the first would be a theme exhibition. What is it that needing and essentially that you're applying for? So that's essentially the one. Then there's another juried show. I have not done this one myself, but this one is essentially when a gallery wants people to submit for some sort of competition. And usually it requires a prize or will require a prize later. I normally have not applied to them only because I haven't had the interest or the energy as well to apply to things like this. But again, it's another opportunity to do this. Now the third one, which I'll talk a little bit more, is more of a solo show, gallery call exhibition. These have been amazing in terms of how people have reached out to me and say, Antonio, we are looking to exhibit for Hispanic Heritage Month. And my first exhibition, I did that through that theme. So it was a Hispanic Heritage Month exhibition. And it was something that was not published online. It was something that was word of mouth. And the gallery representative and their partnership, the nonprofit organization partnership, reached out to me and said, Antonio, we would love to have your work, and are you interested? So more of a word of mouth, more of a networking opportunity. And I do want to say the importance of networking in this one. I don't want to make this video on networking, but do let me know what questions you have about networking. I'll be covering them more later. I happen to have an invitation, a personal invitation, to submit to a gallery to exhibit my work as a solo artist by working with these nonprofits in the past. Networking can be anything around attending events, learning more about their work, again, being on their mind and making sure that I create content to remind people that I am here and that I exist. So it pays very well to be connected and also work with people. And I want to say it pays, not in terms of funding or money. That's another conversation, but it pays in terms of having the connections and essentially people reaching out to me to do this kind of work. So tip number 2 is understanding the purpose of art calls. The purpose of art calls really are to, again, bring in more exposure, more diversity, bringing in a specific part of people's experience in a gallery. So I think that really a gallery is its own entity. Like I said, I will not speak for any gallery. I don't work for a gallery. I've never worked in a gallery. But again, it pays to learn more about who they are and what they want to have. Going back with networking. I keep talking about networking, and I think it may be a networking video, but again, it just goes to show how everything is linked. So just bear with me. Let me tell you my experience in 2020 to 2024 when this video is filmed. I saw a lot of open calls around diversity, historically excluded communities and our voices in North Carolina. And more people of color are in charge of galleries where I am living. And these gallery owners, representatives, are essentially creating more opportunities for people like me, people of Latin American heritage, to exhibit our work. And we are growing. We are increasing our presence, and people want to learn more about us. So I think that has been a huge push to create more voice, more representation in these kinds of essentially projects. That would be one thing about curation and an exhibition. Again, I don't want to step over anyone in curating or galleries. I have no experience with gallery. I never really have made our own gallery call or art call. It's something that maybe I can explore in the future, but I'm mostly focusing on being an artist and creating work and working with galleries to exhibit. So again, as I was saying in the previous point, when you are working on submitting your work, look out for specific themes or topics. Think about if your current work aligns with what they want to have. You may notice that some themes may be something that you already explore, or maybe other themes are different that you don't explore really in your work. And there are pros and cons and benefits, mostly benefits, to studying them, submitting your work to them to see what happens. And I think the purpose of an art call for an individual artist is to continue growing, to continue producing work. There is something that I do want to talk about. Y'all, when there are so many galleries requesting work, it can be a lot. So I live in North Carolina, and when I was starting out, there were so many things happening at once, so many calls here, left and right, and it was difficult to keep up with. There was a year that I applied to 3 or 4 gallery exhibitions collectively through a group that I am part of. And this group was doing a lot this fall. I was doing a lot. I was taking paintings here and there, going to opening receptions, going to so many amazing things, networking, and quite honestly, doing 4 or 5 gallery exhibitions in a span of 4 months and all the background work that required, it was a lot. So one of the things that I can say is, as you're thinking about applying to galleries and submitting your work, think about time as well. Think about your energy, think about how much resources you have, because a part of submitting work, it does require money, right? From printing to buying materials to anything like that. So be aware about the purpose of an art call, to grow as an artist and also to network as an artist. So again, when you're looking to apply to a gallery, think about if your work aligns with a gallery. So let's go a little bit more in depth, talk about the types of art calls. For theme exhibition, one thing that I can tell you is that galleries do seek work that fits their theme or concept, and this could be an important advantage to an artist. As I was saying, a lot of my work is about identity. It's about immigration and about living in the United States. A lot of the work that I have created has aligned a lot with the calls that have been happening throughout my life. And it's been easy to submit to calls that do that. 2 of the things that I want to talk about in type of art calls are, one, creating work for a call that maybe you have not already explored, or a topic you have not explored, or submitting work that you already have produced for that call. Now, the first one would be when there's a call that you are looking to exhibit to and you already have work. So it's easy to submit to that kind of call because you already have work that you have produced. Now, there have been many paintings that I have submitted to calls that have fit this criteria. There was one time, or many times actually, again, talking about my bicultural, binational heritage, that I ended up submitting to a gallery that was looking to exhibit this kind of work. So I already had work in my house and that I would be able to exhibit. So it was easy for me to essentially pick and choose which ones I wanted to exhibit and which ones fit most, because it was already easy for me to have them exhibit. Now, the second type of this would be when there's a call that maybe you have not explored, maybe you're new to doing that, and you want to produce new work. So this happened right now in the summer of 2024. I have submitted to a gallery in North Carolina, and they were doing a call on food and the connection between food and Hispanic, Latinx heritage and in our lives, in our communities. And I don't have, or before learning about the opportunity, I did not have anything. I had nothing related to food and food storytelling. As I've said before, I am mostly a figurative artist where I talk about or paint people and think about that kind of thing, and don't really include a lot of food in my work. So what I ended up doing is I thought it would be amazing. One, I wanted to highlight my heritage as someone who comes from a Hispanic Mexican household, and who doesn't get to live and just be happy around people, around family who makes tamales. So I ended up learning about the call, and I said, this could be something that I could apply to and create some new pieces. So normally I'm an illustrator. I create illustrations and drawings and create work digitally. But this time I said, what if I take pictures of my mother creating tamales and essentially talk to her about things and storytelling, that maybe some stories that she wants to share. And it was something new to me. I pulled out my camera, started taking pictures, snapping away, doing a couple of videos and recording. It was a beautiful opportunity for me to learn some things about what was going on. I think the beauty about submitting to galleries like these is that it allows me to explore things that I normally wouldn't explore through my art. So I explore other things like identity and my culture and ideas that I have. But normally I don't talk about my family or food in my work. So I think it was something that was new and allowed me to explore something that opened up new doors to different facets of my life. So again, you get to decide if you already have some work or if you want to create some work. Now, the thing about creating for both calls, the first one would be you already have some pieces. You already have things that are waiting for you in your house or in your studio. So it's easy for you to essentially document and take a picture and talk about anything that the gallery may be needing from you. On the other hand, if you're looking to create new work for new galleries or a new call that maybe you have not explored already, that will require you to think about what kinds of things you want to show. With that comes a lot of thinking, applying, and also looking into things like creating and buying possibly new materials. So I didn't have to buy any materials because I already had a camera. Honestly, you could take any pictures with phones. But again, I wanted to do a mirrorless camera and essentially apply to this call. It was fun. And other times I have created pieces where I had to go buy some new materials that I didn't have. I had to buy new canvases, new paint, maybe some new brushes. And that essentially created more cost. Think about what that would be like in your experience. Think about how that would be for you. Again, this is the types of art calls. All right, so the fourth point is to prepare for an art call. How do you prepare for an art call? There are so many things to say about this, and we'll be talking about this in the next few videos. So make sure you stick till the end of this video and also the videos in this series, because I'll be talking more about how to prepare for an art call. As I was saying earlier in my first points, is knowing the gallery. One of the biggest things that I can share is looking at who is the gallery owner, who is the gallery executive director, who is the gallery curator, what kinds of things do they like to exhibit, and you have the power to look at what they have produced in the past. So you can look at a catalog of the things that they have already produced in the past. Look into what things they have exhibit it. Look in terms of the styles that they want to exhibit. Look in terms of what resonates with them. What is it that they like to create? What is it that, or who is it that they like to invite to be part of these things? And again, knowing the gallery is super important. Knowing who they are, what do they stand for, where do they want to go, what is their plan, what is everything they want to talk about. It's important to think about that. And also look at the theme. What kinds of themes do they like to exhibit? Are they more abstract? Are they more figurative? Are they more individualistic? Are they more representative of their communities? Do they want to include more diverse voices? Do they want to include more of this medium as opposed to this medium? Or maybe explore more of this style versus that style? The third one, which is even more important, is the reading the call guidelines carefully. Now I'm going to say that again. Reading the call guidelines carefully. So one thing about galleries and exhibitions, whenever they do calls, is normally there will be an application that galleries have for artists. And in this gallery application, you will see questions that they ask about you or your group. And I wish I could summarize some of the major questions that they have given or asked artists. But two of the biggest things that I remember, the first part of the application, essentially demographic information, right? So who are you? What is your name? What is your collective's name? What is your group's name? And anything like that. And then they go on to creating more of an essay question. They usually ask for, what do you hope to achieve? Who are you exhibiting? Why do you think right now it's something important to do? These same questions seem to repeat over and over. That's the biggest thing that they ask, essentially. Why should we exhibit your work, right? So it's about creating essentially an argument that you want to exhibit with them. And that will be the second one. Now the third one would be the sample of work that they want to produce, or the sample of work that they want to exhibit on the gallery theme, right? So remember when we learned about what themes do they want to talk about. They will ask you for supporting documentation, meaning they will ask for a catalog or a portfolio of a summary of your work. So think about all the things that you have produced as yourself or as a team of artists. Think about what kinds of things you can exhibit based on what you have. Again, I cannot stress how important it is to read the guidelines carefully. Anything that you need will most likely be there. And if you have any questions, reach out to galleries. They usually have a group of people, if not one person, that can answer any questions for you. That would be the first thing to prepare for an art call. To know the gallery, understanding the theme of the gallery or the call itself, and read the call guidelines carefully, right? So again, I hope that these tips were helpful to you. We go on to point number 5. Let's say that you have an art call that you have no work for, but you still want to exhibit. I think it's important to think about what work you want to produce and if the call aligns with your vision as an artist. To repeat on the same example or to bring back the same example as before, I wanted to create new pieces that I always wanted to explore. I wanted to use the exhibition on the food exhibition call to explore new things, such as black and white photography, and explore a new topic, such as food and storytelling. It was a new way for me to keep myself on my toes and keep learning more about my craft and keep exploring new avenues of creativity and self-expression. So think about those things. Think about how much time you have, how much time, how much resources do you have? Do you have the funding? Can you go on and buy some new paints, some new things? Or maybe even instead of buying new things, do you already have paints or other things like that that you can use in your home or your studio for future work, right? So think about the pros and cons, weigh them, compare them, and think about that kind of work. Now, on the existing work, if you already have work that already aligns with the theme of the gallery, I think it's easier to already submit. But one thing that I have noticed in our calls is that calls for galleries, at least the ones that have been very clear that they do not want to exhibit a previously exhibited work or work that is older, right? This comes through essentially the gallery's philosophy, and something to keep in mind. Every year I create new pieces of work to keep myself fresh and keep myself exploring new topics and themes, and keep in mind that galleries may not want to exhibit things that are older or things that I have already exhibited. So think about that and ask galleries. Usually they will be very clear what they want to exhibit. Sometimes they will say, no, we don't want to exhibit older things, and by older, 2 or 3 years, or maybe last year. I had a gallery conversation last year where we were preparing for an exhibition this year. So the call was fall of 2023 to exhibit, in the call early 2024. And the gallery representative essentially was clear that they wanted to exhibit new work, so not work that we had exhibited with them last year or in 2023. An artist can do whatever they want, and I noticed that through some calls that people still submitted the same work that they had submitted in previous calls. There's no judgment on them, and I found surprising too that galleries did exhibit their work still. People say one thing, people hear other things, and eventually artists and galleries end up not following what they have asked. But again, this is not representative, it's only my experience and things that I have lived and seen firsthand. So think about those two things: creating calls for a gallery that you already have work for, or creating new existing pieces. So you may be wondering, how do you align your work with galleries and themes? Essentially, are the topics or themes that they already explore or want to explore fit with what you have already exploring? I think that with the calls that I've seen, they have been very much affected by what is the general narrative, social causes in living in this world, essentially. And I think that artists and creative minds that I've met, and even myself, respond to many of the things that are happening. Galleries have been listening and also paying attention to what is happening, but others may not do this. They may not explore what is happening and maybe do something else. Hey, let's think about something that's not related to what is happening in today's world. Again, no judgment on their part, but do know that galleries do have themes and that things align with them. And sometimes what's happening outside, but sometimes they may not. Some strategies that I would give you to align is, again, read the art call guidelines and say, okay, does my work explore on a facet? Or does my work explore some part of this topic? Again, do I have an interest? Do I have an interest in creating this kind of work? And what is it that I can do to apply for this? And one thing that has helped me is submitting to galleries is that sometimes there's so many things going on that I can't drop everything and apply to a gallery. That's another thing to keep in mind, that galleries may have essentially time to ask people to apply to them. But what I was saying is, think about timelines. Do they fit as well? Do they fit? Can you drop everything? Can you apply to this in less than a month, or sometimes less than a week? Think about how much time you have, how much things you're interested in. And again, one thing that has helped me, and I use this a lot in my grant writing and my development fundraising work as well, is even if you can't make this call in, let's say, Hispanic Heritage Month for 2024, maybe create a reminder or create a spreadsheet where you can say, okay, this gallery usually has a call around Hispanic Heritage Month every year, and I'm going to add their information so that in the future, I can go back and apply to them. And that way you are more than ready to start creating pieces that align with Hispanic Heritage Month, if that's something you already have. Think about what can you do proactively to start preparing for things in the future and create other things that you want to explore. There are so many calls around Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15 to October 15. More than likely, people will be reaching out to artists of Hispanic Latinx descent or have those ready. Maybe you don't have anything right now. Create for the future. Create something that talks about your culture, your heritage. For example, I don't have anything, as far as I can remember now from the top of my head, any physical painting on Day of the Dead or the November 1st and 2nd festivals, Dia de los Muertos. I didn't have work that aligned with that, but one thing that I did want to do in 2024 is start creating Day of the Dead paintings so that I could exhibit them in Day of the Dead for 2025, November 1st and 2nd. Think about what can you start doing right now to prepare for those festivals and or gallery exhibitions. Think about what other galleries have exhibited other artists in the past. Think about normally they may exhibit up-and-coming artists, maybe artists who explore more conceptual art, more abstract art versus more figurative, and maybe consider applying to them if those align with you or fit with your goals. We could talk a lot about aligning with gallery themes and so many other things, but let's continue. So in this one, number 7, submitting to or understanding what an article is submitting the application after reading the art call guidelines and what the submission requirements are. So submission requirements, as I said before, are usually your demographic information, as well as the information around why you want to exhibit with them, usually in small paragraphs or small essays. And the third would be supporting documentation, such as the images of your work. If you already have produced or started to create an art portfolio or a catalog of your work, they will ask you maybe for all of it or maybe some of them. And the last 2 things that normally they have required for submission requirements, they have been artist statement and a resume and artist bio. So we'll talk a little bit about them more in future videos in this series, but I'll start to introduce them here. An artist statement essentially, and I talked about that in the previous video, but an artist statement is essentially what your work is doing or what is your work about that you are exhibiting, maybe as a whole or maybe in that call or exhibition gallery. An artist bio is more around your life as an artist and maybe how your life has influenced or maybe not influenced your work. So it's more about yourself as an artist. Artist bio, again, to repeat, is more about yourself, and an artist statement is more about your work in a nutshell. The other thing would be a resume. So a CV is essentially a list of all the things you have already done, and this is essentially a list of opportunities that you have had. For example, other gallery submissions that you already participated in or gallery exhibitions, any other work related to what you're doing and how that relates to what you are creating. Reading these submissions are important. One thing that I do want to talk about is submitting your work in terms of the images. They can be very strict. Galleries can be strict in terms of what they want. One of the first things that I remember when applying to galleries is that usually they will require a certain amount of length and width in terms of pixels, how long and how wide they want the images to be. Let's say they want them under 2,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, something like that. And they will be requiring as well a certain amount of weight. How much or what is the file size? They may say something like 500 KB or 250 KB. And usually they're very strict in how they require the images. So please make sure that you pay attention to what they're saying and follow directions, because that may disqualify artists from actually getting in. It's really part of the call, following directions and making sure that what you have is aligned with what they are asking for. You can go on about submission requirements further and other things like make sure that they don't disqualify you for not following directions. So let's say you have a question. Let's say you have a question, you're applying to a gallery submission and you're thinking about, okay, I have a question about this thing. I don't know how to upload, or maybe I don't know how to reduce the file size of this image, or I don't understand what this word is around the call itself, and I want to talk to them. Like I said before, most galleries will have a person to reach out to, someone who may be able to answer questions. And galleries may also have a open office hours where you can go in and talk about them. And again, it's not only to answer your question, but also I think that it opens up more opportunities to get to know people more. So to build on relationships with galleries is another important part. So go out, talk to them. Say, hey, my name's Antonio, my name is such and such, and I'm really interested in applying to this gallery call, but I don't know if I am able to because of XYZ. Can we have a quick chat over the next few days and learn more about the gallery call? And people will sometimes open up the invitation and follow up with you. Other times maybe they won't. But again, it doesn't hurt. And think about it as an investment in terms of you'll know someone else who can probably allow you to create more work and have more opportunities in the future. So again, building relationships with galleries. We talked a lot about that in the past, and we'll continue to talk about the importance of networking. So point number 9 is timing and planning. You may be wondering, how far in advance do I have to apply for a gallery? Be aware that galleries have many requirements and will have usually an average, I think, call is like a month from what I've seen. I've talked to other gallery curators and other gallery owners and people who exhibit or executive directors, and many of them have said that they usually like to work up to a year in advance. So think about that. If you want to have a solo show, plan to ask them if that's what you want to create. Let's say right now it's August 2024 and a gallery is already looking for artists to exhibit in the fall of 2025. You may reach out to them and say, hey, what is your schedule like? I'm interested in applying. How do we get this going? I have never done this yet. For example, if I were to do a solo show, or if I were interested in doing a solo show, I would say something like, hey, I'm really interested in creating a gallery show for 2025. I was wondering if we could have some time to talk about when to talk about it, or how to best approach and create work for 2025. And I think that would be something that would allow us to have enough time and also allocate resources for producing new work or expanding the work that we already have. So I think that being aware of when usually their timing is will help us apply to galleries in the future. They may be like, hey, a month, if they're doing a month, or maybe they're doing 6 months, or maybe a year. I personally like to work in the spans of a few months. I don't like to rush things. One, if I'm working with oils take a long time to dry. So I definitely don't want to create one oil painting in a month, knowing that when I submit and take the piece to the gallery, that the piece is still dry. Again, it may expose it to risk and maybe some smudging, and I don't want that to happen to my work. I want it to remain intact. Think about timing, think about planning as much as you can. So point number 10, let's say you applied to gallery and you were rejected. How do you deal with rejection? This is a hard one. I'm not gonna say the number of times that I've been rejected applying to galleries. There have been some. I want to say maybe 80% that I have accepted or I have exhibited, and about 20% that I have not been accepted. Remember how we talked a lot about imposter syndrome in the last video and tying my value as a person to my work? That comes back again here. Just because someone did not accept my work to be part of a gallery in a theme does not mean that I am less than of a person, or that I deserve the opportunity. It's hard because rejections are hard. One way that I can say that I have been able to handle rejection is I usually have reached out to them and say, hey, I realize, or thank you so much for the opportunity for applying. However, I'm really interested in learning more about why I was not accepted. And I think this opens up a level of maturity and understanding that you want to learn more. And I usually like to learn from my mistakes. Maybe I did a mistake. Maybe I didn't submit the gallery requirements or how they wanted them. Maybe the images, instead of being 250 KB, they were a 400 or 200 or 150 megabytes. And that was enough to disqualify me. I don't know. One thing that I can tell you is I also been on the other side of evaluating applications. I've been on the other side of evaluating art calls. I've done exhibitions. I've done when artists apply to a residency and other grant and fundraising opportunities. And I can tell you that the deliberation within that group of people can really impact and influence how and who gets in. It's just the way it is. There's no way around it. People will bring ideas, people will talk about their things and what they believe about this person and their work, not only as an individual, but also as a context between the applications. There are so many things that I can talk about here. Let me know if you want to learn more about how people make decisions when accepting people to certain things in the calls for art. And I'll give you my experience. I won't give you like the whole truth because I don't know if I can do that. But I will tell you my experience and what I have observed. To handle rejection is a huge part, and it's not the easiest, but also think about it this way. You can learn about what you did. You can learn about your mistakes. You can learn about what things you can do better for next time. And honestly, being a teacher myself, the best things that I can do is to not get it right and learn from what I did wrong to get things right later. And that has allowed me to grow as a person because I did some things that I didn't know I did. And because I didn't do them again, I was able to get the results that I wanted this way. Again, handling rejection as an artist can be something else, but we can definitely talk more about it later. And then point number 11, you might be wondering, all right, so I was rejected. What do people say? Let's say people will tell you, okay, Antonio, you did not get in because maybe it wasn't a good fit. But again, this is where you begin to think about how can I use this feedback to create future submissions that do not repeat the same mistakes. So that would be the first thing. Do not continue to do the same things that you did before. So think about what new things can you do to create new submissions. And again, it's about seeking constructive criticism. A lot of people will be interested in giving you time to talk about these rejections. Other times they will not be. I think it's a matter of how much time they have. But after you're rejected, or after I have been rejected, galleries have submitted a line that I don't like to read. It says, we cannot provide you feedback due to the number of applicants or the volume of people interested in this opportunity. I understand where that's coming from. And it doesn't mean that you can stop there. I think that galleries, they're in the right to not answer any questions. But one thing that I learned is that even though I received that line many times, what I did was continue to ask them even after they told me not to. And I'm going to say this why. Again, I think there's always value in feedback and how I have been able to grow as a person, as an artist. So even though they said, do not reach out to us for information about why your application was not accepted, again, not verbatim, but paraphrased, I will still say, I understand that you have a big workload and maybe it's not the best time to talk about feedback for my application, but I was still wondering if you could provide the feedback for me. As a beginner artist, someone who's interested in creating more opportunities for myself and for my craft in the future, I'm really interested to use the feedback that you can possibly provide to grow as a person and as an artist. I was wondering if you could give me a couple of pointers or maybe hop on a quick 15-minute call. And let me tell you, the number of times that people have said yes has been about 50%. So the other 50% who said, do not call me, do not ask me, they never reached out after I asked them that question. And the other 50%, they did. And The number of times that I've been able to learn why I did not get the information or get the application, it's been eye-opening. I've found that sometimes being in the rush, talking about 1 month our call opening, doing so many other things, so many things in my head, so many things going on in my life, I may forget the most fundamental things that I need to do. For example, creating examples or saying why I'm the best person to exhibit in this piece or in this exhibition. Fundamental things can slip through our minds when we are rushing. So again, I think that you can try and see how that goes. Let me know what you think. And I did want to talk about using feedback constructively because we could go on and on about how to use feedback for submission or submitting to galleries. So everyone, we have made it to the end of the video. I do want to say that all these points on working or understanding gallery submissions, they are part of a new checklist that I have developed, and you can learn more about this by going to the comment section down below. If you're on YouTube, you can reach out and learn more about a checklist that I have called the 12 Steps to Exhibiting Your Work in Galleries as a Beginner Artist. And what I'm doing here is essentially providing a checklist of general steps that will allow you to start applying to galleries. And it's my contribution to people who are starting out, who have no idea where to go, people who want to start exhibiting but may not feel that they have the information to do this. I do want to be very mindful about the checklist. It's a fast checklist. It doesn't go on and on. It gives very concrete steps for any beginner artist to think about how to best exhibit. And one thing that I really liked about it is that I created a couple of book or personal life, not personal life, but more like personal artist work next steps for people to do and answer them to start preparing for that. So again, it's an introduction to applying for galleries. And I think it's a beautiful way to creating more work around this line of exhibiting to galleries, because let's face it, applying to galleries as a beginner artist can be a lot of work, can be a lot of nuances, can be new information, can be some fear, can be limited resources and so forth. Again, we are at the end of the video. However, this does not mean that you need to stop. In the bottom show notes of the YouTube website, you'll be able to see the previous video to this, which is called Addressing Imposter Syndrome. And you will be learning more about how I have been able to overcome and address imposter syndrome as a beginner artist. And also I invite you to look at this series for the next video. They will talk about how to build your resume. So building your resume is something else that will allow you to start creating a resume that people will more than likely look at and evaluate your experience as an artist. So again, my name is Antonio Alanis, and I highly encourage you all to continue to keep learning, understanding the importance of understanding art calls. And also I invite you to follow up by visiting my website, checking out the checklist. And you can do that by going to antonioalanisart.com, and also by following me on Instagram at Antonio Alanis Art. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your day, and see you next time.